Welcome, I'm Bruce Munro, and with me is International Relations Specialist Professor Robert Patman, and this is Global Insight. It's a week until Christmas, and what a year it has been. Welcome, Robert.
Morning, Bruce.
COVID-19, the US presidential elections, Brexit. 3 enormous international events during 2020. But remind us, what else has happened this year?
Well, I think you've covered some of the biggest events. I think there's 2 other events I would mention, one of which is related to the 3 you've mentioned, which is the declining relationship between the world's 2 most powerful countries, the United States and China. And the other one are disturbing signs of the physical decline of our planet, namely the melting of sea ice in the Arctic, which has taken on alarming proportions. I think they're among the major events that's occurred in 2020.
At the start of the year, you said that New Zealand could emerge as a minor global power. Have we seen any sign of that?
I think we're in international transition at the moment, and I think New Zealand is in the process of recalibrating its foreign policy. We've just got a new foreign minister, Nanaia Mahuta, and she is the first woman to hold that position. So I think New Zealand is, in a sense, rebranding itself on the international stage. And I do think the combination of the appointment of Nanaia Mahuta, also Jacinda Ardern's growing confidence on the international stage, and the fact that she is one of the most liked politicians in the world, I think that combination will see New Zealand playing a more prominent, active role on the international stage. Yes, I do think we will become more of a minor power in 2021. I don't think we're there yet, but I do think we may be putting our efforts into international initiatives. And with the advent of the Biden administration and President-elect Joe Biden, I think we will be looking to work closely with that administration where we can, and I think the scope for cooperation is likely to be much increased after the Trump years.
We've had these big events this year, but do they just come and then go? Has anything substantially changed?
I think so, yes. I think COVID-19 was a disruptive event, Bruce, and I don't think there will be any return to the status quo before COVID-19. My own view is that if you look through history as a guide, there have been previous disruptive events, Second World War, the Russian Revolution, and the industrialization, if you want to go further back. And these established new routines, new distributions of power, new awareness. And I think COVID-19 has sensitized many people, to how interdependent we are within society on each other. I think the role of essential workers has come through to everyone very clearly. People like taxi drivers, nurses, cleaners, they may not hit the headlines, but boy, do we depend on them. And I think this global pandemic has illustrated that within New Zealand and many other countries. And I think the second point, which is the flip side of that coin, is that we are becoming increasingly aware of our interdependence. COVID-19 doesn't respect boundaries. You can denounce it, you can do what you like, but COVID-19 only responds to objective reality and science. So I think this is significant, and I think that COVID-19, the world that emerges from COVID-19, may be in a better space to tackle problems like climate change, which has been neglected for something like 3 decades. You may say, well, you're just being overly optimistic, and maybe I am, but I think there's a pragmatic element to this assessment, and it's this. In the last 3 decades, since the end of the Cold War, we've seen attempts by great powers to unilaterally fix problems. The track record is singularly unimpressive. There's been no unilateral solutions to problems of the global economy, no unilateral solutions to problems of international security, and no unilateral solutions to problems of climate change. So, kicking and screaming, I think COVID-19 may be a catalyst for the world in 2021, 22, to move towards a more cooperative approach, not just because it's the right thing to do morally, but out of self-interest. Countries are moving into a new era in the 21st century where they simply cannot solve these problems on their own, and they need each other. So the fates of sovereign states have become increasingly interlinked, and I think that's one of the key lessons of COVID-19.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching during 2020. Catch us next year on Global Insight. Te pono me te araha.